the innovative leader. Every car today has the belt, right? Safety belt. It was not always the way it is now. We call it the 3-point safety belt. It was not always like that. Okay? It used to be just across the waist. It used to be just across the waist. But then they discovered that even though in the event of a crash, it restrained people, it also created problems. Because the force of the car, the movement of the car, would throw the body forward. Now, when this belt held the person down, it destroyed internal organs because of the force. And this wonderful gentleman, Neil Bobbin, a Swedish engineer who had been certified as a mechanical engineer, then worked with an aircraft company, and he was now working at the safety division of Volvo, the car manufacturer. He was the one, that innovated, because as an aircraft engineer, he had learned to study the distribution of forces on the body when the body is involved in a crash. So he was the one that introduced this one that came across the chest. So that when the body is involved in a crash, the belt transfers the force to the rib cage. And the rib cage, of course, provides protection for the organs that are in there. And that belt saves a lot of lives every year. Now that's what innovation is about. It's about improvement, right, on what is already existing. There is invention, there's creativity especially. Creativity, brings about something that has not been in existence, but innovation actually takes what is already in existence and makes it usable, uses it to solve a present problem. So to innovate means to make changes in something established, especially by introducing new methods, ideas, or products. And that's from the Oxford Languages Dictionary. To make changes in something established, especially by introducing new methods, ideas, or products. Innovation is simply finding solutions to problems. That's what Volvo did. To the credit of Volvo, right? To the credit of Volvo, Volvo gave the patent to all other car manufacturers for free. It's amazing. I mean, they could make money every single time this system was installed in the car. But they just realized this is something that is useful for humanity. There is no need to control it. And they gave the patent out for free. Why should we innovate? Why should we innovate? Because we have problems. There are problems in our world. There are present problems in our world. We have needs, we have challenges in our world. We have physiological problems, right? We need food. We need food. We have the need, we have the challenge of hunger. We have the challenge of thirst. We have need for shelter, right? So we have needs for this body. We have needs for clothing, right? To cover our nakedness. We have so many needs in our world. We have need for transportation. We have social problems. We have social problems. Wherever you put, if you have one person, just that one person has problems. Then when you put two people together, the problems multiply. They're not added, they multiply. So we have social problems. And then you have 50 people, you have 100, you have 1,000, you have 1,000,000. We have social problems. right? We have relationship problems. We have economic problems. We have psychological problems. We have emotional problems. We have spiritual problems. We have political problems, right? So the existence of problems is what establishes the need for innovation. The fact that we've just got to be able to rearrange things, to put things together in order to create solutions for the problems that we have. We also need to innovate because it is the way to thrive in the world. It's the way to thrive as the world changes, right? It's the way to thrive as the world changes because the world changes. And as the world changes, it throws up new problems. Yeah? New problems show up every single day. So if you remain the way you've been, you continue to think the way you've been thinking, you continue to do things the way you've been doing them, the likelihood is you just find yourself in the wrong place. It's the way to continue to thrive as the world changes. We also need to innovate because it boosts productivity and revenue. So when you run an organization or whatever it is you do for your work, your productivity is tied. Your capacity to add value, to solve problems is tied to innovation. It's something you literally have got to be able to do every day, right? So your productivity and your capacity to generate revenue is tied to your capacity to innovate. And then it helps us to extract great value from our resources. Now, this is very important. Innovation helps us to extract great value from our resources. And I tell you, there is phenomenal value in the resources around us in our world. Phenomenal value. At an extreme end, you have the mineral resources in the soil, like we have crude oil in Nigeria. Without innovation, the crude oil would be totally useless. You can't drink it. You can't use it to cook. You can use it to bathe, right? Without innovation, we never would have been able to extract the things that we get out of crude oil, including petrol, the PMS, the diesel, the kerosene, even plastic chairs, right? And several other products. Without innovation, what would we do with the cotton on the fields? We have to be able to innovate to produce textile materials. What would we do? The skin is on the back of cows. Without innovation, we would not have gotten any shoes, right? So innovation is what helps us to extract the value from the resources around us. I remember in the early days of Daystar, when we decided to check what are the needs of the people in our community. It was a turnaround that we did, right, in the leadership of the church, turned the focus on the people. We said, who are the people that live 5 kilometers radius of our church? What are their needs? And poverty came number one, which shouldn't be a surprise, right, in Africa. Poverty came number one. Then we asked ourselves the question, okay, so how have we been addressing the poverty problem as a ministry? Okay, let's look at our preaching. And I found out the only thing I had been preaching with respect to finances was giving. Instantly, it was obvious that that was not the first solution. It's part of it, but that was not the starting point because these people did not have the money in the first place. And then that shaped my prayer point. It's amazing. It influenced my prayer point. So the next thing then was for me to say, okay, Lord, is there anything in the Bible I can teach them that will help them to get the money? Okay, so and now that brought innovation to the preaching, right? That brought innovation to the preaching. But where I'm going is, I saw 2 Kings chapter 4, a widow whose husband was owing so much money, but then he died. And the creditors came, they wanted to take the 2 sons to be slaves. And she ran to the prophet. What I found amazing was that the prophet asked her, woman, what do you want me to do for you? Before she could answer, he fired the second question. Tell me, what do you have in the house? She said, your handmaid has nothing except a small jar of oil. He said, okay, that's what we're looking for. Now you run back home, you go to your neighbors, you borrow empty barrels. He said, don't borrow a few. Get as many as you can. Put them in your house. Close the windows. He said, then take that small jar of oil and pour the oil into those big barrels. She complied. And the moment she turned the big barrel, the jar into the big barrel, there was a miracle flow of oil. Well, I realized God was not asking me to go tell everybody to go borrow jars of oil and pour oil. But I saw principles in there. And the first one was this. God will never allow you to get to the point where there's nothing around you that he can use to move you to the next level in your finances. That was the message I brought to the church. I titled it, Start with What You Have. If you're going to be innovative, you've got to have that basic belief system. Since then, that's the basic belief system that drives my thinking. My blessing is not far from me. There's something around me. There's something. Oh, by the way, very interesting story here. I shared that story on radio, on Success Power. There was a lady that was listening to me on radio, and she had absolutely nothing. Her children had gone to school, and there was nothing to give them for lunch. She was just wondering what she was going to do. And then she heard me speaking on radio. And I was saying, God will never allow you to get to the point where there's nothing around you that he will use to move you to the next level of breakthrough in your finances. And in that instant, she heard someone outside saying, bottles. You know, there are some of those people that move around buying used bottles. And our eyes just fell on the crate of soft drink bottles. Right there by her. She just grabbed the crate, ran outside, sold it, and then wondered what she was going to do with the money. Just remembered an uncle of hers. And she just went to go meet that uncle. Things are very difficult for me. Right? My children, I don't even know what to give them for lunch. The uncle said, no problem. What do you want to do? Is there anything you can sell? She said, yes, I have a business idea. He said, how much do you need? She said it. He just hold on. He went and counted the money cash and gave it to her. Everything started from something around her. So innovation helps us to extract the value from the resources around us. You know, that's the major difference, again, in the biblical story, the major difference between Esau and Jacob. When you if you really want to enjoy the Bible, just put aside the narratives that they've told you since you were a child and read it yourself. Okay? Because once I mentioned that name, already some people were already, Esau was the good guy, that Jacob guy was a bad man. That's what they told us, right? It's when you pay attention, and the idea they give you is that Jacob was a very lazy guy that did not like to work, just liked to laze around the house. But when you pay attention, you will find out the two of them dealt with animals. Esau was a hunter. Jacob was also into livestock farming. To eat, Jacob will run into the bush and he killed an animal before he could eat it. Jacob stayed at home and used his brain better. Instead of running around, if I take the male of this one and take the female of this one and get them to mate, they will produce another one for me. And my capital will still remain. So even if I eat, I will still have the original ones left. And they can produce 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, right? What Jacob did was innovation. I don't want to go too far into his story, but when you read it, you'll be amazed at the amount of innovation he brought into livestock farming. Okay? So innovation helps us to extract great value from our resources. It has been said, I'm not sure of how accurate it is right now, But with just about 10% of the world's population, Africa has about 40% of the mineral resources. So the moment somebody says Africa is a poor continent, you just know it's a lie. It cannot be. With only 10% of the population, but 40% of the mineral resources, come on. So, but you will see what is absent. The ability to extract value from those resources. The sad thing is that, like Esau, if you don't roast or process, right? Solomon said that in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 27. He said, the foolish man or the lazy man does not roast what he took in hunting. So once there isn't that processing, right? He says he's a lazy man. But how do you call him a lazy man? He actually went into the bush and killed an animal. Solomon said he's lazy. What Solomon is describing as laziness is not physical exertion. It is mental exertion.
Church Africa, continents from across the African church.